Missiles continue to hit Ukraine as the fighting reaches 1 week. Washington Post reporter and the anchor of the Daily 202, an incredibly informative podcast, Olivier Knox, joins us now live to talk about the invasion. And Olivier, let's start with some of the most recent developments. Russia said it wasn't going to bomb just neighborhoods in Ukraine, but it looks like that's what they're starting to do in some places.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Russia initially said it was not targeting civilians, but that hardly matters when what they're targeting is civilian neighborhoods. They are pushing forward. The operation clearly has not gone as smoothly as Vladimir Putin would have liked, but now they're pushing on to what looks like a really punishing phase in which thousands of Ukrainian civilians are likely to die.
Let's also talk about how this is going to go from here. Even though it hasn't gone as smoothly as it like, their forces are significant, and it looks like, we don't have insight into what he's thinking, but they're just going to keep flooding resources into Ukraine, correct?
Yeah, that's certainly how it looks. I mean, one of the most important developments here, two of the most important developments here are, one, that the international sanctions really are biting into the Russian economy, and two, that this does not appear to be slowing the Russian advance in Ukraine. Remember that they parked something north of 170,000 troops on Ukraine's borders. They've now pushed about 80% of those into the actual conflict. So what we're seeing is still very much an all-out offensive by the Russians.
Let's also talk, you mentioned the sanctions there, and President Biden spoke about them last night in the State of the Union address. Is this something that could really put the pain on Putin to the point where they change direction eventually?
Well, put the pain on Putin for sure, but to the degree that it would lead him to recalculate what he wants in Ukraine and the price he's prepared to pay it, that's a lot less clear. Certainly, there's a political message in those very long lines of Russians at ATMs, those frustrated Russians at every level of society who clearly are unhappy. And we have to sort of do a tip of the hat to the thousands who've taken to the streets in anti-war protests, braving arrest or worse.
Let's also talk about some of the things Ukraine has done here. We've heard that they're suspending visas to get in. If you want to come in and fight for this country, you can, trying to get as many forces available. And, of course, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, a former actor, really playing the role of leader right now.
Yeah, that's a great point about Zelensky. Definitely playing the role he was born to play, marshaling the Ukraine's response and a lot of the messaging. You know, one of the really notable things about this conflict is the degree to which it's a social media war. Yeah. A conflict in which he pops up in his bunker or does a TikTok video, basically trying to reassure the Ukrainian people. At the same time that a lot of large platforms are taking down Russian propaganda. Yeah. So that's been a very interesting dynamic to watch.
Let's also talk about the nuclear threat here. President Putin has talked about this. Bluff, not a bluff? What do you think?
I think that in the context of the largest military operation in the heart of Europe, you have to take it seriously, and it does raise some alarms, raise some concerns. But I think one of the really notable things is that throughout the Cold War, the United States and the USSR regularly raised their alert levels. Right. They just didn't do it publicly. And so that's a really important component here. Vladimir Putin decided he had to do this publicly. And so I think part of this, a big part of this, is a message to a domestic audience. Remember, I mentioned those long lines at the ATMs. Yeah. Clearly, Russians are unsettled. This is a way of saying we are still the bear and we still have claws.
It's interesting, though, how they're doing it. Completely different from the Cold War. Olivier Knox, anchor of the podcast 202, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Great information and wonderful insight. Hope to talk to you again. Thank you, Olivier.
I love it.
All right.